Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been a long time since I have said this. Welcome to the Bill Crane Report.
You can
With
mark
my
this
friend
on your
Dwayne.
calendar as a banner day.
Dwayne Weiss is here with me, and we're back on the air. My word, it's been, my best guess is 20 months
Yeah, I think that's
since
about
we've
it.
been off the air because of the foolish pandemic.
It feels like just a chunk has been taken out,
Yeah.
and then you got to it, there was nothing there, and then you stepped over to the other side. But it's hard to believe that much time went by.
You know, I was drafted and I did 2 years in the Army. And I figured that was 2 years of my life
Yeah,
that belonged to somebody else, the government, and I was restricted very much. And I compare the pandemic to that. I mean, it was 2 years where we were facing all kinds of restrictions. You can't do this, you can't do
right.
that, you can't go see your friends, you got to wear a bloody mask all the time, and staying home and not being involved in things. And I'm not crying about it because a lot of people died from it or got very sick. Very luckily, I missed it.
well, you know, there's actually a couple of pluses to it. I read more than I've ever read in my life. I read some of my yearbooks.
Yep.
I never read much for fiction. I was strictly, if it was fiction, I wasn't interested. Mr. Crane here got me interested in several different mystery writers, and some of them were very entertaining. Because first I thought, I don't read that kind of stuff, but I got 5, 6 of his books at a time, and
I've got, as I told you before, that one series about the police officer in Scotland. I get 33 of those books, all 33 of them. But
and I started feeding birds
yeah,
and naming squirrels. Hey, when you're bored,
I have a chipmunk that eats out of my hand. If I sit down, he'll eat out of my hand, and he'll also, in the morning when I go out to get my newspaper, he's waiting for me because he knows that I'm going to put down some peanuts for him.
they're smart.
Yeah. And the bum, he walks around me like this. And now he's getting up and standing on my shoe. Next thing I know, he'll be rifling my pockets.
Oh, we had a squirrel when we lived
Yeah.
before we lived here. I took blizzard of '78. I found him on the ground in the snow, and hand fed him and raised him. And he turned in that way. You walk outside and he'd crawl up your leg and he'd sit here right on your shoulder. He'd sit here and you feed him from there.
That's great.
Wasn't so great.
Oh,
He turned into be a real pain.
he wore out his welcome,
Oh,
you
if you
mean?
go in the house and you didn't let him in, he'd chew a hole through the screen and come right in. So you might as well open the door if you're going in. He wants to follow you in. Might as well open it because he's coming in.
Did he hide?
No.
No?
He sat on the table. He'd sat on your chair. He thought he was part of the family.
How did you get him out? Did you have to pick him up?
Open the door, walked outside, he'd follow
really?
you back out.
Oh, wow. How about that? My
But
word.
that's the last time I'll do that. He got into everything.
Yeah.
Tried to paint the fence one day, and he's in the paint. He's in the. You couldn't have anything outside, anything to eat, because he's right
Sure.
into it.
Yep. Oh, gosh. Well, you know, speaking of reading, I've compiled quite a list of books that I've read during the pandemic, and many of them I've shared with Dwayne. And we'll do a show. I've been reading will be the title of it, and I'll share with you folks some really good books for you to dig into and enjoy. Also, if anyone, well, let me back up. The Historical Society has published a couple of books, interviews with elderly folk about the early days of Norfolk. And it requires a lot of work. And quite frankly, one of the ladies that was doing the interviewing and going to different people's homes, just simply can't do it anymore. So I said to myself, we could invite an elderly person to come and sit down with us for a half an hour on the show and talk to them about their memories of early Norfolk. Not only would you, the viewers, enjoy that, but we could also, at that point in time, may have a copy made of the show and give it to the Hysterical Society with hopes that someday, if we get 10 or 15 of them or 20 of them, they'll have enough to do another book.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So we'll see if we can't compile a list of folks that would like to come on the show and do that. Also, I was talking to a couple of guys my age, 80, 81, about the early days in Norfolk. And I said, ought to come on the show. We can bat the breeze about what it was like 60 or 70 years ago in Norfolk growing up. And they both agreed. So at some point in time, I'll reach out to them and grab them, and we'll have them on, and we'll have a Norfolk Memories kind of a show.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
I think it would.
If any of you are so inclined and would like to sit down and bat the breeze with us, give me a holler. I'm in the phone book, and we can talk. Now,
Speaking, just follow up with that.
yeah,
I am technically, computer-wise, I'm adult. I don't know crap about it. But I'm going to set up a Gmail account. Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and try it myself. I'll probably have to have my grandkids do it, but
holy cow,
and then we can take that Gmail account.
beautiful.
If somebody has a comment or they want to
There
contact
you
us,
go.
I can go right. We'll keep that Gmail account for this show.
And we'll also have it then on the lead into the show.
Yeah.
Any comments or anything?
And then
hit-
we'll
hit- yeah.
comment back on what we get, the
you go.
emails that we get.
Yeah.
And then if somebody
Problem-
wants to come in and talk about it in person, you're more than welcome.
We'll probably have to clean up much of the language.
Oh, I suspect we're going to
Yeah.
have some cracky ones there. But don't hold your breath right away because I'm not very good at it, and I'm probably going to have to go to my grandkids for
Well,
it.
my son Patrick does it for me.
Patrick could, he'd
Yeah,
be a good
he
one. too.
sets them up, and he told me, he said, "Dad, you don't check them." He said, "You don't check your email." I said, "Well, I'm getting nothing but ads and trash."
Yeah, I know it.
He says, "Well," he says, "what are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I'm just going to let it die. I'm sure at some point in time they'll shut me off and it'll be
I
all
found
over."
out how to mass erase them.
Yeah. Oh,
You don't
good.
have to, just
Oh,
go,
really?
bloop, yeah, it's gone.
Well, I'll have to figure that out. But anyway, he told me he's not going to set up any more email accounts for me. So, anyhow. Well, so Dwayne and I were talking the last few days about what we're going to talk about on the show. And I said to him, look, I've made a list of problems the country faces that we have not been able to talk about for the better part of 2 years.
Some of them weren't there.
Yeah.
Some of them have developed since
Absolutely.
we've been here.
So then I said to Dwayne, here's the list. So let's see if we can figure out what the top 10 problems are, and maybe we can talk about them. So I'm going to read quickly the list of the problems that I wrote down and shared with Dwayne. Immigration, homelessness, income disparity, health care, both cost and coverage.
Yep.
Social Security and Medicare need to be fixed. One national attitude, our national attitude towards the elderly. Crime, unemployment or underemployment, lack of qualified workers, our school systems, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, China as a military threat to all of Southeast Asia, shutting down of the nation's energy independence, Donald Trump, lack of national vaccinations, I guess total vaccinations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not getting everyone vaccinated we need to get vaccinated. For instance, yesterday on Fox Financial, they had a rep from New York State on, and he said, do you know that only 28% of the blacks in New York City are vaccinated? Now, for some reason, and I believe it's a distrust of our government, 72% have chosen not to be vaccinated. And that's troublesome. But anyway, Facebook and the social media, we need to simplify the tax code so it fits for individuals all on one sheet of paper. Never mind all these deductions. And businesses, 2 pieces of paper. Racism and social justice. The police / criminal justice / prisons. The dismantling of our nuclear power plants. Pure, non-polluting energy because of morons like the Clamshell Alliance and the Snail Data Bunch. Abortion, the backbone of the Democratic Party, without which they would cease to exist. COVID-19 and its variants, the pill is the new game changer. The Red Sox. Waiting for President Biden to define what our fair share to pay in taxes is. Defined for all groups. Clean up the oceans. Never mind traveling to Mars or the moon. Let's fix Earth first. What's it going to be like without fish? How am I going to get fish and chips?
No way.
The environmental folks, the radicals, have set about destroying our economy in the name of saving the planet. While it's tough to argue with their passion, I guess, sometimes their logic leaves a lot to be desired. And I'll give you some examples. Well, I'll give you an example of that right now.
Okay.
They stopped or delayed a couple of nuclear power plants because of the snail data.
Oh, I remember that.
A fish about that big.
Yeah.
And they said it only exists in one little watershed. And if they build a nuclear power plant here, that watershed is going to be endangered and the snail data will be extinct forever.
Prior to that, nobody, with the exception of a few eco-scientists, ever heard of the snail
That's
data.
exactly right. But you know what, folks? After all the lawsuits, all the misery, all the delay of it, they finally built the power plants. And guess what they found? The snail data was every place. Not just that one watershed. But you know, the scientists, the green folk, I'm sure they knew that, but they didn't.
They always bring up extinction. Extinction is forever.
Yeah,
But extinction is part of nature.
it is.
go back and, start with the dinosaurs. There aren't any dinosaurs left.
No,
There's always something that's going to become extinct, and as evolution, new forms come on.
Yeah.
New forms are coming on, but it's so slow we don't see it.
there is a number I've seen, like 80% or 90% of the animals that have existed
Ever
are
was.
now extinct.
They're gone.
They're gone. So
And
this is it. It's
nobody-
evolution.
Nobody made them extinct, sir, except a few in the modern times.
Exactly.
The overhunting
Yeah.
or environmental, but they're so minuscule in number that you can't even comprehend it.
Exactly. So the folks got their necks in knots over the snail data. But we have wind farms all over the western part of the United States. And what do wind farms do? Well, these big blades go round and round. And raptors, like golden eagles and hawks, hunt from the air, looking down at the ground for bunny rabbits, squirrels, ground birds, mice, you name it. Their supper is on the ground, and they fly into these blades and are being killed by the thousands. I haven't heard one peep
No, you won't.
from those green people about that. But the snail data, a phony issue, my God, we were destroying the infrastructure with that. Dwayne,
Yep.
how did you do on trying to nail 10 of those things?
It's difficult. There's so many of them. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I picked out things like income disparity.
Okay, I missed that one. But you're right. These are all important stuff.
I actually got to admit, I picked some that affected you and I,
Okay.
as opposed to overall. The health care coverage. Social Security, Medicare, that's going to be a horror show.
It is. Can you imagine these people in Washington, the AOC and the squad, this handful of people are driving the entire administration
That's
of the Biden administration.
Good point. They're so outspoken,
And aggressive.
yeah, and influential beyond what their actual scope should be.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's 535 members of the House.
Yeah.
But those 4 of the squad have got more horsepower than 300 or 400 of the people. in
Every
there.
time they peep,
Yeah.
the media jumps all over them.
Well, every time they peep, Biden jumps.
Yeah.
Man alive. Well, we'll get to that. Go ahead. What else you got?
Crime, I think, is a big one.
Okay, so we agree on crime.
Yeah.
And we agree on Social Security and Medicare needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And stop raiding it. That's the problem.
That's exactly right.
Social Security would be golden forever.
If they hadn't raided
Keep their hands out of it.
Yeah.
It's not a fund for every little project you got. Just dip into the Social Security fund. It has nothing to do with Social Security.
Yep.
But yet they continue to dip into it. Vaccinations, I don't understand it, Bill. I thought when 20 months ago when this thing started breaking and people are starting actually thinking about this is serious business. People are dying by the hundreds and then thousands and then hundreds of thousands. And worldwide it's in the millions. This is not just the flu of the early 1900s. This could even go back to the bubonic plagues and the plagues of Europe. And once they announced the vaccine was close and then it came out, and the response, you remember, was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted it now.
Yeah,
I
I did.
They're knocking old ladies out of line and, jumping on people and anything to get it. And I know, for remedy sakes, we went through, you and I, we both jumped through hoops to try and use that stupid website that Massachusetts had. And then All of a sudden, it just, phew, the people that wanted it got it. And then there was so much resistance to this vaccine or getting vaccinated for the stupidest reasons. What has happened to our logic in this country? We were always, I think, a smart country.
Yes.
Now I'm not too sure.
Well, I agree with you. And when I made the example of the 28% of the black population in New York City are vaccinated, let me tell you something. It's not just that segment of our population. If you take a look at some of the numbers out in Idaho,
yeah.
where the redneck of the rednecks
That's right.
live, and the numbers are off the scale. I mean, it all comes. It's both. I really and truly believe it's for the same reason. Neither group trusts the government.
Yeah, I think that's probably good.
Yeah, because the rednecks out there are living. Idaho is like an enclave.
Yeah,
It's nirvana for them, and they are anti-government, independent, leave us alone, don't tread on me kind of people.
Oh, absolutely, very independent.
And when the government comes a knocking, you don't want to answer the door.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Well, you're right about the nuclear power because we cannot achieve what the AOCs and the Greenies want to achieve without it. We cannot generate, from what I've read, a sustainable enough power using solar, wind, and whatever else they're using
Yeah.
without nuclear.
Well, we saw what happened here a couple of weeks ago when the wind stopped
Yeah.
blowing.
And I think these people, they speak out of one side of their mouth, but they don't think of what they've just said.
Yeah.
Harvard says we're going to disengage in any investment in fossil fuels. No more fossil fuels, bad fossil fuels, bad, bad, bad. But yet, when the administration at night leaves that office and gets in their Lexus or their Mercedes-Benz and turns that key,
Do you know something?
how do you think they got home?
Yeah.
When they get home, they turn the thermostat on. What do you
Correct.
think warms that house up?
Yeah.
And then they say, well, electricity. But they never think, where does it come from?
Oh, there's an electricity farm out
Oh,
in the
yeah.
backyard. You go out and you pick some and you bring it in the house and plug it in. Oh, good
It's
God.
that one-sided. All you just see those editorials, and this is so great. We're going to have electric cars with no pollution,
Yeah.
no exhaust problem. Well, how are you going to power that to power the car?
Well, and not only that, but that is a very costly procedure to charge the car. I mean, plugging it in to a 230 line for 9 hours, that doesn't come cheap.
No, that will get better over time, but we don't have the. If everybody switched to electric cars, electrification of the homes, electrification of business, we couldn't do it.
No.
Even if we had the equipment to use it, we couldn't power it.
And the cheapest, cleanest form of fuel that we have in this country is natural gas.
Yeah,
as far as the
exactly.
fossil fuels
Fossil
are
fuels,
concerned.
you're right.
Okay? It's natural gas. So what does the Biden administration do? Throttle back the production of natural gas.
I just saw that. They looked for natural gas to double over this winter, double in price.
Well, now, I'm glad you said that, because let's think about this for a second. Natural gas, the price of natural gas has doubled this year. All right, now the end is nowhere near in sight because Biden is putting restrictions on production, on pipelines that carry the natural gas.
Yeah, that's
It doesn't get to Massachusetts by magic. So the cost of natural gas is going up. Now, to draw a parallel with Europe, we're in Fat City compared to Europe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At $5 and change for whatever the unit is of natural gas, it is 5 times the cost in Europe. $25. Those people are, well, of course, they keep their homes considerably colder
Very
than we do.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in the service, and I was talking to one of the Germans that worked on post, and he said, "I have a nice little home." He said, "Nice and tight and warm." He said, "We only wear like 2 sweaters at night when we're home." Yeah. Oh boy. Well, we've got so much natural gas in this country. We have enough for centuries of production. And why are we buying it from Russia?
Good point.
Well, because Biden
Well, I know
doesn't
why.
want our domestic producers bringing that icky stuff up. He's buying into what the Greens say. Keep it in the ground.
Also, when you see a well,
Yeah.
and you see that big fire burning, that's called a flare.
A flare off, yeah.
And all they're doing is burning the excess natural gas that's coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
Instead of capping it and using it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the price was always so low on natural gas that it was a money loser.
That's right.
It was cheaper to flare it off. Well, now, I think they have restrictions now. I don't think they can do that anymore. Or there's certain cases they can't do it. Then they're supposed to capture it. And you know what? When it gets up to $5 to $6 a unit, it's worth capturing.
Oh, absolutely. Another thing is this fear of pipelines that we have here in this state particularly. Pipeline is just a terrible, terrible word here.
Do you know why? Because in this enlightened state
Yeah.
of ours, they don't seem to do maintenance as they should.
Very true.
And you know what I worry about? Well, I don't worry about it. I mean, it's going to happen.
We're
It's
too
beyond
old-
my
we're
control.
too old to worry about
Yeah.
some of this stuff.
But the water coming in from Quabbin Reservoir is running through pipes
They're hundreds of years old, aren't they?
close to 100 years old. And when they get in the city of Boston, God only knows how old they are.
Yeah.
And we have water breaks in Boston all the time. Jeepers creepers. But do you think that maybe other parts of the country have figured out how to test pipelines? Do you think Massachusetts would spend some money on maintenance? No. They'd rather fund another seat at the university for advanced studies on studying bugs or something.
You know,
Ah,
they alternative is these huge trains full of tank cars,
Well,
which
yeah.
you know we've had several serious accidents, but particularly in Canada,
well,
wiped out whole towns.
how often does the MBTA
They
have
derail.
stuff go off the
Yep,
rails?
that's right.
Jeepers creepers. I mean, you know what? I'd vote for a pipeline run through Norfolk in a heartbeat. If it ran through my backyard, fine.
When I was a kid, but they had a farm. Well, it went through there.
Yeah,
We didn't know.
No.
Well, we didn't care.
right.
We didn't know because they paid you for a right of way. They came in, they dug a hole, and they put these pipes were about that big around in. They covered it up, smoothed it up.
And they
It's
paid
gone.
and they paid the town for easements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They paid
Uh,
the
Do you
landowner for-
remember the big hullabaloo over the Alaska
Oh
pipeline?
my God, yes.
And well, that's it.
It's going to be the end of the wildlife.
End of them. I mean, the reindeer are just
done.
absolutely going to become extinct because of that stupid pipeline.
Yep.
The pipeline was erected. They walk under it, back and forth. They don't even pay any
No
attention.
attention
to
to it at all.
it. Good God. What else you got on the list?
COVID-19 and that new pill. That can be fascinating or it's going to be a bust. I'm just not sure where that's going to go. But I think if they could work in that area, that might be. But are we going to run into the same anti-pillars that we run into anti-vaxxers?
Do you know that there is a certain segment of our population? I don't know how many it is. I know lots of people who would rather have a piano fall on their head while they're on a sidewalk than get an injection.
That's right.
They are terrified of needles. So there's going to be that segment. Now, they will take the pill, I
Yeah,
think.
I think that you're right. That group will take an alternative.
Yeah, but the government haters, big business, yeah, Merck and Lilly and all, they're screwing us, making millions and billions. I'm not taking that stupid pill, and you've got that bunch. So I don't think they'll change.
No, they won't change.
No, they're haters. What else you got?
Well, one we didn't put here that really bothered me.
Go ahead.
That was January 6th.
Well, January 6th. I'm going to write that down here. Go ahead.
That sickened me.
Yeah.
Absolutely sickened me. And I don't know where to go from there. It was the most destructive looking thing I've ever seen in my life.
It
And then
was.
then to start whitewashing it now.
Yeah. It was a terrible embarrassment
Yep. Worldwide.
worldwide to see that. Now, I think it's got blown way the hell out of proportion. Big deal. They got into Nancy Pelosi's office and they sat and put their feet up on the desk. All right. That's the, and
Yeah, that's something, but
I
it's
mean,
not.
it's more malicious than it is
But
terrifying.
the fact is, they got there.
That's
the,
right.
the fact that
And
you
they
could
got
bust
there
down windows, you
by
could break
force.
down doors, you could force in, cause
Yep.
violence, cause death, destruction, threaten your own democratic process from within. That's
Yeah.
you expect sometimes it's threatened from the outside,
Yeah.
foreign nationals or foreign something, but your own people inside. That's banana republic stuff.
It is. You're absolutely right.
And then chanting, hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence. I wonder what would happen if they actually caught some of these people.
Well,
I think the mob would have ruled and somebody was going to get hurt because it was mob rule going there.
there was a certain segment that would have done that. I don't know how I could possibly define that, but
I know.
think there's a much larger segment that were just along for the ride.
There's no question about it. That's you always get that.
Yeah.
You always get that, the hardcore. Then the people that say, "Oh, what's going on?" That got exciting and they're along for the ride. That there's no question about that. But the fact that it happened, the fact that we were not prepared for it. I told Monica that Saturday morning when Trump was doing his speech and what he said, I said, "Come here. There's gonna be trouble."
That's why I put Donald Trump down
Yep.
as a problem for this country. And I will get into that a little later, perhaps. Have you got anything else on the...
Well, I got it. I did.
That's
These
it?
ones I picked out as highlights,
Okay.
like we talked about.
All right. So I picked out immigration,
Yep. I
homeless,
checked that. I didn't say anything.
homelessness,
Yep.
health care, the cost and lack of universal coverage. Social Security and Medicare need to be fixed. Crime is on the increase.
Yeah, I got that one checked. Also.
School systems are in a... they're not turning out quality students ready for the next step. And so instead of saying, we're doing a lousy job at teaching these kids, darn it, what is the real core reason?
Oh,
And
I got some ideas on that.
Yeah. Instead, we say, well, they're not able to pass MCAS. And that is the exam that's used at the end of high school
Yep.
for the kids to show colleges
Yeah.
what they have achieved. Okay? Well, because the kids are failing MCAS, now the story is, well, it's MCAS's fault. It's the people that made up these stupid tests. They are aimed at white folks and minorities are at a real problem taking this. There are lots of questions in there that don't relate to minorities, that just the upper crust understand. So let's just throw the MCAS out instead of saying, teachers, what the devil is going on?
Well,
It's an oversimplification.
yeah, right. Well, but that's you're on the right track. There's problems in our school systems. There's problems in how we teach. There's problems in what we teach. Not every kid to me, student, not every student's going to go on to college, believe it or not. We try to think that every kid's going to college, but they don't. There should be more trade type subjects in our high school without having to go to a vocational school. You got people graduating from high school cannot balance a checkbook, people that still use checkbooks, but they can't do it. They can't do simple math, go to the store, if it's 25% off, they have no idea what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because, excuse me, their education in that school system was geared for English literature, world history,
You got
poetry,
Latin. Yeah, learning a dead language.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
But they come out unprepared
Yeah.
for the world.
That's right. Well, you're absolutely positively right. One of the now you know what, we can sit here and we could be tail gunners and shoot backwards,
absolutely,
and hit every target every time. But one of the greatest errors that we made in this country was closing down the vocational wings of our high schools.
Yep.
Closing down the shop classes.
We're finding that today big time. When you drive down the road, there's not a place that doesn't want looking for carpenters, plumbers, much less the carpenter, a carpenter's assistant or plumber's assistant.
Do you know who has got is positioned perfectly in this economy? The handyman.
Oh, absolutely.
He's got a license to steal.
Try to get something done today.
Yeah.
I've been trying 2 years to get
Yeah.
a deck built.
Yeah. So, folks, next time your toilet plugs up,
Yeah.
oh, and you pick up the phone, call the plumber. Yeah, okay, be right out. Plunges it. Oh, okay, all right. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. All cleaned out. What do I owe you? Well, $135 for the
Truck to show up.
for the house call, and let's call it 160.
Yeah. And someplace along the line, somebody should have said, if it plugs up, you use one of these plunger things and you go, quick, 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 quick. That's it. But they're not taught that today.
You know what? I had a talk with a plumber. He said, you know, the plumber's helper
Yep.
with just the concave shape
Yeah.
is useless. Throw it away. You got to get the one with the how do I say it? The inner, with an inner part.
Yeah.
That's a circular part in there within the oval shape, and that, he said, is the only thing you should ever use. In other words, a two-piece kind of arrangement in the plunger assembly. He said, you're wasting your time and your money with the stupid single ones.
But it's not just the plumbing. The fact is that the kids get out of school today, they don't know they don't know a hammer to pick up or to do with it. They've never had any exposure of anything like that. If something doesn't work, I call somebody else.
Call the guy.
Call the guy. Yeah, that's exactly right. And when we were going to school, we weren't accomplished tradesmen when we got out, but we knew what a screwdriver was.
You knew what end of the hammer to hold.
You know what a Phillips screwdriver
Yeah.
was. You knew what a wrench was. we weren't afraid to take a couple of bolts off to see
Sure.
what was happening
Yeah.
under there.
Yeah.
But not today.
No. No, but yet they can make a computer stand up,
Yeah.
sing, whistle, march, and do anything you can possibly imagine. When you and I are basically about the best we can do is look at it.
My wife was a very un-PC today, a home ec teacher.
Wow.
Whoa. She taught mostly girls and boys then in their later years how to sew, cook, do things domestically. Today that's not PC. You know?
Home ec.
Home ec.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
she said that when the boys got in there, all of a sudden they discovered they didn't know how to boil water.
Yeah.
Or if their button come off, how do I sew that button back on?
Do you know what my wife did with the 3 boys? Made them cook.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah.
Very good idea.
And so that all 3 of them can cook.
I learned
And
that. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, well, she did it the hard way too. She wouldn't feed them.
Mhm.
But yeah, the home ec and the shop courses would never ever should have diminished
No.
the teaching in that aspect.
We shouldn't take away. In fact, we should expand the vocational school
Absolutely.
stuff because there's so much demand for tradespeople today. that
Welders. Try to find somebody that needs a welder.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a guy that's a welder, a certified welder. I mean, well, the nuclear power plants, you have to be nuclear qualified welder.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They bring them over from France,
Yep.
where they have nuclear qualified welders. Because in this country, because we're getting away from nuclear power, the welders are gone.
Yeah.
It's a lost trade. I have also on my most important list President Biden and VP Kamala Harris. Our once energy independence, and I invented one, the visceral hatred in Washington and race relations.
Yep.
And I think we ought to
I
just
think that not race, the hatred in Washington, that the us and them has
Yeah.
got to stop.
it has to, but
Um,
like today, the Democrats and the Republicans got together in the dead of the night and passed a debt ceiling extension
yeah.
for 3 months or whatever. it
December something, I think it is.
So the ink is just barely dry on the document when the Democrats accused the Republicans of folding. Yeah, they folded up. They don't have the courage to face the real problem and blah, blah, blah. And the Republicans are saying, well, we bailed the Democrats out. They were hopeless. We weren't going to let the country go down the tubes. So we'll work it out in the next 3 months.
Yep. All you hear is, I'm right, you're wrong.
That's right.
You say, you're right, I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Never, we're doing this for the good of the country.
That's right.
It's, we're doing this for the good of our party.
Now, I was no big fan of Tip O'Neill. I think he was
I wasn't either. It was-
always a part of politics that I didn't care for.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a feather your nest
Oh.
mentality there.
Man, yeah. And, you know, that whole thing, patronage
Yeah.
in Massachusetts. Yeah, look, I can work with you on this project, Dwayne, but I get 2 son-in-laws
Yeah. Oh, boy.
that really need to be on the construction crew. They're both tip-top guys. You make sure you get those 2 boys on there. And I know it's an 18-month project. It's only an 18-month project, but
Yeah.
I want my boys working on it.
I think our illustrious Mr. DeLille summed it up. He didn't intend to. You remember back when the scandal came up? I think it was the probation department. they were getting all these
Oh,
patronage
yeah.
jobs in there, and these filling them up with senators' kids
Yeah.
and friends and
Yeah.
people that owed favor to. And DeLeo right off the bat says, "I don't see anything wrong. That's how we do business in this state."
That's right. That's
And all of a
exactly
sudden, when the
right.
pushback came big, then he said, "Well, I didn't say that. I didn't mean that.
I was misquoted.
That's what he said. I was misquoted."
It's amazing.
But he kind of hit the nail right on the head when he says, "That's how we do business in this state."
But you know, the point that I was going to make about Tip O'Neill is after hours, he'd go to Ronald Reagan's office.
Yeah, oh yeah, and sit down. They
Or
had
vice
a bottle.
versa.
They had a bottle in the
Yeah.
desk, and they'd say,
Yeah.
"Have a few bourbons with
Yeah,
them."
exactly. And say, now, what's the problem here?
Yeah, what are we going to do about this?
Well, how are we going to fix
Yeah,
this?
exactly.
Yeah, and they managed to get us through,
Yeah.
and the Reagan Revolution was part of the greatest 8 years we've ever had.
Don't you think that a lot of the stuff that they did in those days and the important stuff got done informally after hours behind closed doors with a couple of drinks in their hands?
They were
And a cigar?
personal decisions
Yep.
where two guys sat down eyeball to eyeball
Yep.
as friends. Maybe not the greatest of friends,
No,
but
but-
as friends.
Yes.
But they both understood what their mission was.
That's right.
And their mission was to do what's right for America.
We've lost that.
We've lost it is right. We certainly have. One of the things that I am, as we look at this list here in your list, we need to really talk about the ones that we didn't touch on. But can you imagine if you and I, before the last election, picked Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as president and vice president, and
Would
people
we
could
pick them?
say,
Are you saying?
yeah,
Would we pick
we
them?
would have chosen them, and people would have said to us, "What, are you crazy?
Yeah.
He's brain dead, and she is
God knows what.
a waste of space."
Yeah.
And yet, we've elected them.
Well, I anytime we get into friends or relatives and stuff, we start talking about Biden getting elected, and this is I totally believe this. A lot of people look at me aghast. I said, Joe Biden got elected because of Donald Trump. If we hadn't picked, or the party had picked anybody but Donald Trump, somebody else would have got elected. There wouldn't be Joe Biden, because I said, and this is my own personal opinion, I think it's pathetic. A country of 330 million, give or take, people can't come up with two better candidates than, like you said, a brain dead and an egomaniac.
I'm telling you, you know,
That's the best that we can come up with?
you are so correct. You have nailed it right on the head. If we looked for the two worst,
We couldn't have done any better.
but instead, that was our
The choice. That's
Yeah.
like Sophie's Choice was an old story. Do
Yeah.
you want to kill your son or kill your husband, or it was one of them?
Yeah, yeah.
There's no right choice.
Yeah.
There was no both choices were bad.
Yeah. And you know, I loved Donald Trump's policies. I loved his intelligence. I loved the fact that he was a sound businessman. And I think that policy-wise, he got a lot done. But I gotta tell you, as a human being,
right.
he was bankrupt.
Yep, exactly.
Just in you just shuddered sometimes with some of the things he said and did. I mean, he single-handedly caused this entire bottleneck we have in the Congress by going down to Georgia and campaigning for the two losers.
That's right. It seemed like there was a trail of chaos and destruction that followed him. It's like Peanuts character.
Yeah.
There was a pig pen. Always
Yeah.
had that little black
Yeah.
cloud hanging over
Yeah.
him. No matter where Trump went, you could see his wake behind him, his trail behind him.
Down in Georgia, the Georgia Republican Party had the two candidates they wanted for the two open seats. He goes down there and says, no, I want this one and this one
Yeah.
instead. And he splits the party. And what happens? 50-50 in the Congress. Instead of the Republicans having a 52-48. So all the problems we're facing right now can be laid right at his doorstep, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. You know what? I think, and I hate comparing it to the character I'm going to mention because of the fact that who he was and who he worked for was, you remember in history back in the 430s and 40s, Albert Speer.
Oh, sure.
He was a Nazi, or I don't know if he was a member of the party or not. But
Yeah.
Albert Speer, with Adolf Hitler, was the guy that got things done. Adolf Hitler and his group would never have been able to set up a munitions factory or an aircraft factory or got this thing done and without having hardly any fuel to work with or anything. He was a master of organization and and getting the country going and what they wanted to do.
Now, he was an architect.
I think
And-
Trump, if we would have been put in a position like that,
Yep.
would have been a good character for that. And I'm not saying I'm not making a direct comparison here to Nazism.
No, I
and Donald
understand. No,
Trump
I
or
understand
anybody
exactly
else.
what
But-
you're talking about.
He would have fit in a job like that.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Albert Speer was a smart guy,
Very smart.
very smart. And once the war started, and all the shortcomings of the problems that the Nazis had with the leaders that Hitler had put in place, the economic leader, the factory
They were
guy.
idiots.
They were idiots, is right. They were party hacks.
Yep.
Once he got Speer involved, things changed a lot. And the same thing with the Luftwaffe.
Yep.
I mean, Hermann Goering was a pompous fool. Smart guy. Very
Oh,
smart
yeah.
guy. And very personable. Very well liked by a lot of people that met him. But a terrible person otherwise. But totally inept as far as running the Luftwaffe, the Air Force of the Germans. And Edward Milch
Yep.
was the brains behind the whole thing. And without him, it would have been total chaos.
Yep. You're right.
And you know what? He was 1/4 Jewish.
That's right.
And Goering signed a proclamation Aryanizing him, recognizing him as a true Aryan.
Bill lent me a book called Adolf Hitler, and I for the life of me, wasn't going to mention because I can't remember the author's name again.
Yeah.
Ulrich something.
Yeah, Ulrich,
We'll
it
come up
begins
with
with a V.
Right.
Yeah. That's one of the books that we'll talk about on
And
I've been reading.
It's not for the light reading.
No.
It's about 800 and some pages long, and it is tough reading. You got to go slow on it, but it's really enlightening. It explains a lot of things that happened.
Yeah.
Now, and I understand that only goes up to 1939,
Yeah.
and there's another book goes 1939 on.
I got that.
I'm waiting to read that because I'm about to page 700 on this one. You read it for a while and you start going, oh my God, I can't
I
keep
get
keep
good,
track of this.
good news for you. It's about 650 pages, not quite 700.
All right.
But yeah, it's amazing. When you look at what Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan accomplished,
Yeah.
and they did it through their personalities and their love of America, both of them. The way they got things done differed, but nonetheless, they found a way to get it done. This bunch in Washington,
Oh, my God.
they are determined they will not find a way to get things done.
Well, we're just waiting for another disaster.
Yeah,
Where something's going to happen. I'm not a purveyor of doom, but something is really bad going to start happening. Some bridge is going to fall, massive, that was just ignored for so long. Our infrastructure is just going to start tumbling on us if we don't do something and do something quick.
yep. Neither party, they should both be ashamed of themselves, but they are obsessed with social programs to the point where bridge maintenance,
Yeah.
highway maintenance, the safety of the airways is lost on them. Oh, yeah, well, that's too bad, yeah. But we're going to pass this about pre-K child care. That's more important, you
Yeah.
know. Now, listen, I'm not saying it's unimportant, but on the order of things, we can't have all the bridges crumbling, and we can't have planes falling out of the sky.
No, we'll continue that one on.
Yes. All right.
Part two.
So, folks, we've come to the end of our first show back on the air, and we will continue this chat on the second show. So, thank you for tuning in. Hope you
around.
enjoyed, and stick around.